Kyler Murray has likely played his final down for the Redbirds, as per Adam Schefter, a divorce appears imminent.
But when you start to look at it, what could the Cardinals get back in, I guess, return for Kyler?
From Kyler Murray, who became expendable when his team started playing better without him, to Max Crosby, who recorded 12.5 sacks only to watch his team finish 3-14, to Tua Tagovailoa, who threw a league-high 18 interceptions and got benched for a rookie. These NFL stars are about to get traded in the offseason, starting with Darren Payne. Let us kick things off with a guy who has been a rock-solid presence in Washington for years. Darren Payne was the 13th overall pick back in 2018. The Commanders handed him a 4-year, $90 million extension in 2023 because they believed in what he could do in the middle of that defensive line. But here's the thing. Payne is entering the final year of that deal. His cap hit sits at a whopping $28 million. That makes him the 6th highest-paid defensive tackle in the entire league. And when you look at his production this past season, well, the numbers just do not add up to that kind of money. We are talking about a guy who had only 3 sacks and 7 tackles for loss in 2025. His overall grade dipped below 62 for the 3rd straight year. His run defense grade was particularly rough at under 45. For a guy making that kind of bread, those numbers are simply not going to cut it. The Commanders have some decisions to make. They have about $51 million in projected cap space, but they also have other priorities. Young players who need extensions, a roster that needs upgrading in multiple spots, and with rookie Johnny Newton emerging as a legitimate force, Payne might find himself on the outside looking in. And plenty of people around the league believe Washington should have moved on already. The sentiment is clear. If you are paying top of the market money, you need top of the market production.
Right? If you're going to pay someone top of the market money, they need to be top of the market. If you put yourself in a position where you have to pay top of the market for someone that is not at the top of the market, that's a bad place to be.
Teams like the Cincinnati Bengals could use his services to help their struggling defensive line. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been mentioned as a potential suitor. Even the New York Jets could make a play. The return would likely be somewhere around a 4th-round pick. Not great, but sometimes you have to cut bait and move on. While Payne's value has dipped due to declining production, this next NFL star is dealing with a similar situation on the other side of the ball in the secondary. Marlon Humphrey. Now we get to a name that is going to sting for Ravens fans. Marlon Humphrey has been a cornerstone of that Baltimore defense. For years, 4-time Pro Bowler, former All-Pro, the kind of guy you build your secondary around. But 2025 was rough, really rough. Humphrey allowed a career-high 916 yards in coverage. His completion percentage against was over 64%. His coverage grade absolutely cratered to under 43. That ranked among the worst in the entire league for qualified corners. The Ravens went 8-9 this past season. They missed the playoffs entirely. Head coach John Harbaugh got fired, and now with a new regime coming in under Jesse Minter, everything is on the table, including their highest paid defensive back. Humphrey is in the final year of his contract. He carries a cap hit of over $26 million. There are no guarantees left beyond a $5 million roster bonus that is due in mid-March. A trade before June 1st would save the team over $7 million. A post-June 1st designation would save even more. And while all this is happening, Humphrey seems focused on other things. After a brutal loss to the Lions where the defense got absolutely torched, fans were stunned to see him promoting his podcast on social media.
Marlon Humphrey, you've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is a joke. You're out here promoting your podcast? Y'all just got whooped. Are you out here promoting your podcast?
The Los Angeles Rams are reportedly very interested. They need secondary help in the worst way after getting torched in the postseason. The Green Bay Packers view him as a dream target to pair with Jair Alexander. Cleveland could also make sense given that Todd Monken, who coached Humphrey before, is now running things there. At 30 years old, Humphrey still has the pedigree to bounce back, but Baltimore seems ready to move on and retool. While Humphrey's future remains uncertain on defense, this next NFL star is facing questions about his role on the offensive side of the ball in New Orleans. Alvin Kamara, 5-time Pro Bowler, the Saints' all-time leading rusher, a guy who has been the face of that franchise for the better part of a decade. And now Alvin Kamara finds himself at a crossroads. The 2025 season was not kind to him. A career-low 3.6 yards per carry, only 657 scrimmage yards, just 1 single touchdown in 11 starts. Injuries limited him to only 11 games. His rushing grade dropped to the lowest of his career. At 31 years old heading into 2026, the explosiveness that made Kamara special has clearly started to fade, and the Saints are in full rebuild mode under new head coach Kellen Moore. They have a young quarterback in Tyler Show they are trying to develop. The last thing they need is $18.5 million tied up in an aging running back. Trade rumors have swirled around Kamara before, and when asked about them, he made it crystal clear where he stands. He wants to stay in New Orleans, but he also understands this is a business.
Yeah, I don't know where that. We talked about it, and we was like, we was looking at each other like little Spider-Man meme. Like, did you say something? Did I say something? Because I don't know where that came from. But I think I've been vocal enough that that I don't know where that came from. But I don't want to go anywhere. And I've said it countless times. Y'all know that. I think
the Denver Broncos make a ton of sense as a landing spot. Sean Payton knows exactly what Kamara can do. He coached him during his best years. If J.K. Dobbins leaves in free agency, Payton might push hard to reunite with his former star. The Kansas City Chiefs have also been mentioned as a potential suitor, looking for depth behind Isaiah Pacheco. Kamara has said he would rather retire than get traded, but in this league, business is business. While Kamara is dealing with declining production on the ground, this next NFL star is facing questions about his role in a suddenly crowded receiving corps in Chicago. DJ Moore. The Chicago Bears made a massive move to acquire DJ Moore back in 2023. They sent the #1 overall pick to Carolina to get him. They gave him a 4-year, $110 million extension in 2024. And for a while, it looked like the perfect marriage. But things have gotten complicated. Rome Odunze emerged as a legitimate weapon. Luther Burden came on strong at the end of the season. Colston Loveland showed he can be a major factor in the passing game. And suddenly, Moore finds himself as the 3rd or 4th option in that offense. His numbers dipped in 2025. Only 72 catches for just over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Those are career lows in several categories. And when you are making over $28 million a year, those numbers need to be better. The Bears are over the cap. They need to find ways to create space. And with their young receivers developing, Moore becomes somewhat expendable. Some analysts have been pushing hard for Chicago to make this move. They believe the team can find production elsewhere for less money.
Yeah, this is the one that gets a little bit of hate right here, okay? And I understand it because it's tough for me to say it because I'm a big fan of this player. I enjoy this player. I appreciate him. As a former player, I respect the heck out of him. But number 2, trade somebody. We're going to trade DJ Moore.
A post-June 1st trade would save Chicago $16 million while only leaving about $10.5 in dead money. The Tennessee Titans make a lot of sense. They have a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward who could use a veteran presence. The Buffalo Bills under new head coach Joe Brady could pair him with Josh Allen. Even the Denver Broncos have been mentioned after their receiver corps got exposed in the AFC Championship. Moore is still a good player. He just might not be the right fit in Chicago anymore. While Moore's situation involves being buried on the depth chart, this next NFL star actually proved his worth when given the opportunity and now finds himself as a hot commodity on the trade market. Gino Smith. Remember when Gino Smith looked like he had figured it all out in Seattle? Well, those days feel like ancient history now. The Raiders traded a 3rd-round pick for him last March. They gave him a 2-year, $75 million extension with nearly $60 million guaranteed, and they got absolutely nothing in return. Smith started 15 games in 2025. He threw for under 2,700 yards, 16 touchdowns against 17 interceptions, 4 fumbles. His passing grade dropped all the way down to the low 70s. This from a guy who was playing at a Pro Bowl level just 2 years earlier. The decline was steep and immediate. Early in the season, it became clear that the Raiders had made a massive mistake. The interceptions piled up at an alarming rate, and the comparisons to some of the worst quarterbacks in recent memory started rolling in.
It just seems like it's over. He has 9 interceptions already in 5 games, and there's like a storied list of people who have done this, and it's all some of the worst quarterbacks you can remember from the last 30 years. The Raiders, of course, have had a couple of them. I can't believe how bad he's been. They gave him $75 million for 2 years. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him, and he's worse than the guys they had last year.
The Raiders finished 3-14. They have the #1 overall pick. They are taking Fernando Mendoza and starting completely fresh. There is simply no room for Geno Smith in that equation. His base salary of over $26 million for 2026 becomes partially guaranteed in mid-March. That creates a window for the Raiders to either trade him or cut him before that date. A trade wipes his cap hit entirely from their books. The Atlanta Falcons could use a veteran presence presence amid their quarterback chaos. The New York Jets might be desperate enough to take a flyer. Cleveland could be an option, but honestly, the return is going to be minimal. A late-round pick at best. Sometimes you just have to admit the experiment failed and move on. While Gino's time in Las Vegas was a disaster from the start, this next NFL star actually revived his career and now has multiple teams calling about his services. Mac Jones. Here's a story of redemption. Mac Jones was a first-round pick who looked like a bust after his time in New England and Jacksonville. The Niners took a chance on him with a cheap 2-year deal, and he rewarded them by going 5-3 as a starter when Brock Purdy went down. Jones completed nearly 70% of his passes. He threw for over 2,100 yards with 13 touchdowns and only 6 picks. His passer rating was over 97. In Kyle Shanahan's system, he looked like a completely different quarterback than the guy who flamed out on the East Coast. Now here is where it gets interesting. Jones only has 1 year left on his deal at just over $3 million. That makes him an incredibly attractive and cheap option for teams looking for a bridge quarterback. And with the 2026 draft class looking weak at the position, his value just went up significantly. Multiple teams have already expressed interest, and that is exactly what San Francisco wants. They want a bidding war. They want leverage, and right now, they have it.
Source with inside knowledge shared that Mac Jones is definitely on the Vikings' radar, but there are a number of other teams interested. This is music to my ears. This is exactly what you want if you're the 49ers. You want to have the asset and you want to market. You don't just want the Vikings interested, although that might be enough to get a good deal. You want the Vikings interested. You want the Dolphins interested.
Kyle Shanahan said he would be very surprised if Jones was not a Niner in 2026, but he also said they would listen to offers. That is GM speak for, make us an offer we cannot refuse. The Minnesota Vikings are very interested. They need insurance behind the injury-prone J.J. McCarthy. The Jets could make a play. The Falcons and Saints have been mentioned. A third-round pick seems like a reasonable return for a guy who proved he can still play at a high level. While Mac Jones rebuilt his value with strong play on the field, this next NFL star has seen his stock plummet despite being one of the most talented receivers in football. A.J. Brown, 3-time Pro Bowler, one of the most dynamic receivers in football, and a guy who has requested trades multiple times since week 3 of this past season. A.J. Brown is not happy in Philadelphia, and everyone knows it. The Eagles gave him a 3-year, $96 million extension in 2024, but his production dipped in 2025. Only 72 catches for just over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Those are his lowest numbers since 2021, and in their wildcard loss, the frustrations boiled over. When asked directly about whether he had heard any trade rumblings, Brown gave an answer that sent shockwaves through the fan base. It was not the definitive denial everyone expected. It was something far more ominous.
You have not heard anything. There's no actual rumblings about a trade. That's all. I want to just make that clear.
He ain't going to communicate. I'm not really just worried about any of that right
Okay.
now. So if it is, if it ain't, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, that wasn't the answer I was looking for. I thought you were going to say absolutely not.
I think you just got to be prepared. It's a bid at the end of the day, so. And I'm just trying to just handle it the best way I can.
The contract situation is tricky. A pre-June 1st trade would hit the Eagles with over $43 million in dead money. A post-June 1st trade saves $7 million, but still accelerates over $27 million to 2027. That is a lot of dead cap to absorb, but the trade value projections are surprisingly low. Some executives have it at just a 5th-round pick with conditional elements. That seems almost insulting for a player of Brown's caliber. But the contract and the perceived attitude issues have definitely dampened his market. The Buffalo Bills would love to pair him with Josh Allen. San Francisco could use him with Brock Purdy. Cleveland needs a #1 receiver for Deshaun Watson. Even a reunion with Tennessee has been mentioned. Brown is still an elite talent. Someone is going to take that swing. While A.J. Brown's frustrations are boiling over in Philadelphia, this next NFL star is dealing with his own relationship issues with the Las Vegas Raiders. Max Crosby. This one hurts. Max Crosby has been the heart and soul of the Las Vegas Raiders. 5-time Pro Bowler, one of the premier pass rushers in the entire league, the kind of guy who gives everything on every single snap, but the relationship has soured. The Raiders shut him down for the final 2 weeks of the season against his wishes. They finished 3-14. Head coach Pete Carroll lasted only 1 year, and Crosby, at 29 years old, is looking to play for a contender. He signed a massive extension last March. 3 years, $100 $106.5 million, over $91 million guaranteed. His 2026 cap hit is over $25 million with $18.5 million in guarantees vesting in mid-March. That creates urgency for a trade before that date. And if you are a fan of a team that needs pass rush help, Crosby should be the name at the top of your wish list. He is a proven game wrecker who would instantly upgrade any defense in football.
If you want the big ticket out on the market, whether it's free agency or trade name, that I would be obsessed with if I were a 49er fan, and I am, it's Max Crosby. If you could circle one player that's a proven player and you could find a way to make him a Niner, that's my guy, Max Crosby.
The return would be significant. We are talking first-round pick plus additional assets, comparable to what the Bears got for Khalil Mack back in 2018. The Chicago Bears have been heavily linked. Pairing Crosby with Montez Sweat would give them one of the scariest pass rush duos in football. The San Francisco 49ers have also been mentioned. Tampa Bay has interest. Crosby has over 60 sacks since 2019, second only to Myles Garrett among edge rushers. He is a game wrecker, and multiple teams are going to pay a premium to get him. While Crosby wants out of Las Vegas to chase a championship, this next NFL star might be forced out of Miami due to one of the worst seasons we have ever seen from a franchise quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa, the 5th overall pick in 2020, a guy who signed a 5-year, $212 million extension in 2024, and now, less than 2 years later, his trade value has absolutely cratered. Tua Tagovailoa had a nightmare 2025 season, 14 starts, just 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns against a league-high 18 interceptions. His turnover-worthy play rate was the worst among qualified quarterbacks. He got benched in Week 16 for rookie Quinn Ewers. It was an unmitigated disaster. The Dolphins fired head coach Mike McDaniel. They brought in a whole new regime, and now they are stuck with a guy who has a $56 million cap hit and $54 million fully guaranteed. A pre-June 1st cut would result in a record-breaking $99 million dead cap hit. That is simply not an option. So a trade it is. The problem is, nobody wants to pay that contract. His trade value has been described as shockingly low. We are talking about a conditional 6th-round pick at best. Some team might have to be sweetened with the Dolphins taking on most of the salary. One destination that makes a lot of sense is Atlanta. The Falcons play in a dome, which eliminates weather concerns, and they already have a quarterback competition brewing. Adding Tua gives them another option at minimal cost if Miami eats the salary.
One of the things with Tua is staying healthy, but that's why it would be brought in as a competition. And cold weather games. Tua isn't the best in cold weather games, but guess what? The Atlanta Falcons has exactly what Tua Tagovailoa needs, and that is a dome to play in, where the weather will not be a factor whatsoever, because it can still get really cold in Atlanta, but in a dome is where Tua Tagovailoa needs to find himself. A windy day, rainy day, whatever it is, it will not impact him in Atlanta.
The Jets have been mentioned out of desperation, even the Chiefs as a backup to Patrick Mahomes. Tua has said he is open to a fresh start. That might be the only option left. While Tua's situation in Miami has completely fallen apart, this next NFL star has been dealing with dysfunction in Arizona for years and is finally ready for a change of scenery. Kyler Murray. And now we arrive at the biggest name on this list, Kyler Murray, the #1 overall pick in 2019, Offensive Rookie of the Year, a guy who was supposed to be the franchise cornerstone in Arizona for years to come. But the marriage is over. As Adam Schefter reported, a divorce appears imminent. The Cardinals fired head coach Jonathan Gannon and general manager Monty Ossenfort. They finished 4-13, and Murray, who was benched after a foot injury in Week 9, has likely played his final down for the franchise. The end of his tenure in the desert was unceremonious, to say the least. Everyone wanted to see it work out, but sometimes things just run their course.
So, Bo, we're diving in, our first of many conversations about a future landing spot for the Pro Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. An unceremonious end to his tenure here in the desert, where he was #1 overall in the 2019 draft, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Everybody wanted to see it work out. Looks like we found the expiration date as far as Kyler Murray, but when you start to look at it, what could the Cardinals get back in I guess, return for Kyler.
His contract is structured in a way that allows a trade with a manageable dead cap hit of about $15 million if executed before mid-March. After that date, his base salary for 2027 becomes fully guaranteed. That deadline creates urgency for the Cardinals to move quickly. The weak 2026 quarterback draft class has actually boosted Murray's value. With Oregon's Dante Moore returning to school, there are no elite prospects available. Teams that need a quarterback are going to have to look at the trade market, and Murray, despite all his struggles, still has upside. The New York Jets are the most logical landing spot. They have draft capital. They need a quarterback desperately. Aaron Glenn is building something and could use Murray's dual threat ability. The Minnesota Vikings view him as a potential upgrade or bridge option. The Las Vegas Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers, and even the Cleveland Browns have been mentioned. The return is likely a second-round pick, maybe a third. Not great for a former #1 overall selection, but sometimes you just have to cut your losses and start over. And that is exactly what the Cardinals are going to do. There you have it, folks. 10 NFL stars who will absolutely be changing teams this offseason. From former #1 overall picks to Pro Bowl defenders to some of the highest paid players in the league. The NFL is a ruthless business. Loyalty only goes so far. Contracts can become albatrosses. And sometimes, the best thing for everyone is to part ways and start fresh somewhere else. Which of these trades do you think will actually happen? Which player has the best chance to revive their career with a new team? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.